Hey, this is Romey-Mak, and you're listening to the Innerview with Rome podcast. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Romey-Mak. Welcome to another edition of Interview with Rome. And today's special guest, I have author Alex Berstein for the novel The Platform. Be sure to check out Alex Berstein work on Amazon. You can check out The Platform there. Alex hails from Pennsylvania. We're going to go ahead and get into his stories. So, Alex, man, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being on. So, anyway, man, how's the day going so far? For one, we'll go with that.
It's fine. It's still kind of early. We're recovering from the tornado watch we had last night. It's still pretty windy, but I think it's going to shape up to be a pretty good day.
Oh, well, that's good, man. Well, it's sunny down here in South Florida, Homestead, that is. So it's a good day so far. Hopefully it's a great day. But I want to start off the interview with asking, who is Alex Berstein?
Alex Berstein is just an ordinary guy with an overactive imagination.
So where did you get your start in writing?
Probably when I was in middle school. No, even before that, there was some English class. It was probably like 3rd or 4th grade, and we had to write we had to do like 6 poems or something and like a short story. So I wrote a story. It was probably like 5 pages or something, but that kind of got me excited about like creating characters and writing dialogue and stuff. And then I took a creative writing class in college. So like nothing really happened. I mean, I took that class in like elementary school, and then I didn't write anything until I got to college, but I took a creative writing course, and I got one of my poems published in the school's literary magazine, and that kind of put the thought in my head, like maybe what I'm writing isn't total garbage. So that's what really kind of progressed my wanting to do something more with it. And then after that that was at a community college, and then I went to Penn State. I was only there for about 2 months, and it was just the worst experience of my life. And that is in my book. There's a character who is basically his backstory was my experience at Penn State. So after that kind of shaped like what I wanted to do with my life.
Okay. All right, so we got that you went to Penn State. What other colleges did you attend?
It was just a community college, the Harrisburg area community college.
All right, man. So where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona. I graduated from the same high school that David Spade went to.
Okay.
So like all my friends live out. I mean, I have friends here too, but like all the friends that I've known like forever, they all live out in Arizona.
Yeah, your childhood friends.
Yeah.
So what's the first book you ever wrote?
Well, aside from the ones I wrote when I was a little kid, the first book that I got published is The Platform.
Oh, nice. All right. So let's go into The Platform, man. Like, who's the protagonist, the antagonist of this book?
Protagonist is the narrator. He doesn't have a name, but I did that because I didn't really want the book to be about him. So he is an author, and he wants to write this book. So basically, to steal a line from Lemony Snicket, he encounters a series of unfortunate events, and then he winds up meeting all these interesting people, and then they become the protagonists, I guess, of the story. And then you start hearing more about where they came from, and then their stories, all of their stories, that becomes the basis for the book that he writes.
Okay.
So it's not really about him. He's just kind of explaining what's going on.
Got you. It's like a street reporter or whatever.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right, man. So when you're writing, like, what's your mantra for creativity? How do you go about, I guess, getting together ideas for writing? Like, what's something that you do? So, like, for instance, with me, when I create music, or I'm sitting there trying to come up with something for like the podcast, I tend to, I just sit on the couch. I play like old like funk music, and for whatever reason that like helps me to to come up with ideas. But or classical rather. That's probably like a Mozart channel on Pandora's where I'll get ideas. So for you, how do you go about getting your creativity?
Yeah, I don't really have a mantra. Part of my writing process, though, is I create like soundtracks for whatever I'm working on. So there's a few songs that I reference in the platform that were part of the soundtrack that I had created. Like I went into iTunes and I make like a playlist. And then I just listen to all those songs, like one after another, and then it's kind of a way of telling a story through music. Uh-huh. And then there were some that I couldn't put in the novel because the novel takes place in 2011, and some of the songs came out after that. Yeah. So, it wouldn't make sense if they were in there.
I got you.
But that's kind of how I do it. Like, I'm working on one now, and I got about, like 4 or 5 songs that would be on the soundtrack. And that's not to say that, I can't write it until the soundtrack is completed. Just there's things that happen, and then it puts a thought in my head, and then I hear a song, like on the radio or on Pandora, and I listen to the lyrics, and it kind of explains what's going on, and then I kind of tie that into the story somehow.
I got you. All right. So, being we're on the subject of music, say who's your favorite artist, at least right now?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I guess name a few artists that you listen to, the ones from the soundtrack.
Right now it's probably Stone Sour, and they're not like a new band, but just every time I hear their music, I just get that feeling like I want to, go for a run or something. Not that I'm a runner, but it gets your heart pounding.
Yeah. So what type of genre do they do?
It's like hard rock.
Oh,
it's Corey Taylor. He's the singer from Slipknot. It's his side band, but I think they're better than Slipknot.
I got you. Okay. Yeah. Slipknot reminds. It's like high school days. So.
Yeah. They've been around for a while, but I mean they're still making good music. So
that's all that matters, man. So what's everyday life like in Pennsylvania?
It's fine. I've lived here. I've lived in Arizona. I've lived in a couple different places, and I've noticed that no matter where you are, there's pros and there's cons. Like here, I live in like a central area where there's a lot to do. There's Hershey Park, there's Harrisburg, there's a bunch of museums and stuff. I'm like an hour and a half from Philly, so I'm pretty close to where I can drive anywhere within 2 hours. And then but the summers are like really like humid here, whereas in Arizona the weather was nicer. It's not as cold, but there's like nothing to do there. So it just kind of depends on, if you're an outdoorsy person or you like being indoors,
So, are you a sports guy?
I'm a baseball guy.
Yeah.
I've tried getting into like other sports. Like I watched football for a while, but I can't get into football. I can watch hockey, but I can't sit for like the entire game. Baseball is the only sport that like I can watch from start to finish and not get bored. I think it probably stems from my childhood because my dad would always watch the baseball games and I would just be out there with him, like watching them.
Yeah.
I also noticed that it's the only like all-inclusive sport. Like, there's people from all ethnicities in baseball. You don't have that in hockey. You don't really have that in football. Like baseball, there's white people, there's black people, there's Asians, there's everybody. Whereas, hockey is predominantly white people. Football is predominantly black people. Basketball is, there's not really a lot of Asian people. It's just white people and black people. And, I'm not saying that race is really an issue, but it's the one sport that seems that everybody can agree that, it's, in my opinion, the greatest sport.
That's where we differ because I would say football. I would say big football guy. And baseball, it's so funny. They call it, America's pastime. And like for me, I can go sit at a baseball game versus I prefer to sit at a baseball game rather than watch it on TV. But I mean, watching the
same thing.
Yeah, watching the World Series though, you can easily get into it, man. Like the excitement, especially if you got two good teams that got good pitchers, guys that are working the infield and guys outfield, and you got like a big hitter like Bryce Harper, which I'm sure you guys are very happy to have right now.
You know what, man? I think he's overrated. I mean, I'm glad that we have another good player, but I don't think he's worth the $330 million, whatever.
I think he'll show you. I think he'll prove you wrong in a little while. That guy's amazing. Like he came down here to. I think we played. Yeah, we played the Nationals. My cousins were down. I'm literally sitting there with my cousins. They don't really watch baseball. Well, they're not really big baseball fans. They watch baseball, but they're not really big baseball fans. I would say I'm more of a baseball fan than they are. And here, Bryce runs. He bats. I think he was batting third or fourth. And I was like, this guy comes up to the plate, man. He's charting it out, and he did not let me down, man. Like he's just that good. Very, very, very cocky guy, but backs it up with his game plan, man. And but yeah, I can totally get where you're coming from with baseball as far as being so inclusive as far as race goes. Wasn't always like that, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but definitely that is the one where that game is played around the world. It's so funny. Like I talk about this at work sometimes. Like the World Series. It makes more sense.
It's not really the World Series. It's the North American Series.
That's what I'm saying. And then but all the sports do that shit though. Like NBA, NFL. I mean, Americans play. At least for right now, that Americans play the best basketball. So I can see why you would say world champion, but like you said, that's North American, that's American champions. And then football, we're the only one that plays this form of football. So how are they the world champions of football? It's only played in America like that. But I mean,
because we as Americans like to think that we are the best in the world. So everything we do is, the world's greatest.
But the foreign players are going to be the ones that's going to take over the league. I believe that in baseball for sure, especially like Caribbean. They're very, very highly skilled individuals, and even Asian players. At least from my perspective, outside looking in. I'm not like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of baseball. I played Little League and coach pitch when I was a kid, but that's where my baseball dream stopped right there. Everything else was basketball. Mom wouldn't let me play football. Didn't want me getting hurt. And I roughly thank her for that, looking at some of the injuries mentally that they endure. But yeah, man, I'm definitely, as you can tell, I'm definitely a sports fan, and being I'm a Bulls fan, 49er fan, I guess Marlins and Florida Panthers fan. Is probably like to cover all the sports. My teams are all over the place because I followed my older cousin. And when at a younger age, I was 4. I think he's about 9. He was into the Bulls because of Jordan. He was into the Niners because of Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. So I kind of held on to those teams throughout the year. But yeah, football is certainly my that's my choice of sport because of what the game teaches. Even more so than the field, it teaches character, and you just it takes. I like it, and I'll ask you that, man, because being you're a baseball guy, for me, the reason why I like football is because it takes everyone to get everyone to win. But I don't feel that same way. I guess as how you look at it with baseball. Do you think it takes an entire team to win? Would you say baseball is a team sport, or if it's because I guess my logic is
I think it mainly comes down to pitching. Because if your pitcher's giving up runs, it doesn't really matter how good the other players are. But then again, when they're on offense, you have to like score runs. So it's like when it's defense, or when you're on defense, it's up to your pitcher. And then when you're on offense, it's up to everybody except for the pitcher. Because usually the pitchers aren't the greatest hitters because they don't have batting practice. So unless you're in the American League, then the pitchers don't even get a chance to hit. It's the designated hitter.
Exactly. So I mean, for me, I just don't see, like, because it can be 0-0, bottom of the ninth. That one guy comes up, charts it out. That's the game,
Yeah.
So I guess that's my logic with why I don't really see baseball as being like a team sport.
I get it, and I understand why people say it's boring, because it's the one sport that doesn't have like a time clock, and there's not a lot of movement. It's a lot of people just standing around doing nothing for 3 hours. But I don't live a very exciting life, so to me that's fine that they're just standing there for 3 hours. It gives me a chance to relax.
What's funny, man? Like playing, I've played, playing the game. It's been a long time, but I did get like fulfillment of actually playing. You're up the bat, you got a guy on second, and he's trying to steal or get to third, and those things. Like like for me, playing it is fun. Watching, maybe not always. Now there are a couple games where it's like, okay, can we get this over with?
That's kind of how I feel about football and basketball.
Yeah,
like, I
and there's
enjoy,
that too. Same
going
with
to
that.
the basketball court, shooting hoops, and tossing a football back and forth. Where I don't really like playing baseball because it's kind of boring. You just like stand there, but I like to watch it. I don't know.
There's and there are times in the NFL like you have boring. I would say boring games. Like for instance, if like the Jaguars were playing the Browns, like there's a couple Monday Night Football games where they're doing their best to commentate and make this thing sound exciting, but it's just like, or rather the Thursday Night Football games, and they've had people complain about that as far as like how boring the game is on the choice of the teams that were made for Thursday. Like there's no they're not playing for it. You feel like they're not really playing for anything. But I would say for me, the game the two sports that are almost always have excitement because of how hard it is to score, and that is hockey and soccer. At least from me, what I mean. I'm not. I play hockey games, like video games, and same for soccer. But I don't. I never played. Being in Virginia, we didn't have a hockey team, and I at the time I just wasn't into hockey or even soccer at that point.
And it surprises me that hockey players don't get paid more than football players.
Exactly.
Because they play, almost every night, and they're on ice skates, and they're getting slammed into the walls constantly. And, football players play once a week, and they don't move around that much,
No. It's like 15 minutes. Like if everything moved constantly, it's 15 minutes.
But I guess hockey isn't as popular as football, so there's not enough money in the league to pay the players.
And that's why it's not popular here. I don't know how as far as like it is around the world or even in Canada for that matter. But yeah, they definitely, I believe they should, because they're basically playing football on ice. They should get, definitely should get paid. We can agree on that. I believe they should get paid a hell of a lot more than what they do, man. So moving to the obviously next part of the interview, like how did you and your wife meet, bro?
We met in a speech class at that community college that I attended.
Yeah.
She sat in the very front row, and I sat in the very back row. And she says that this never happened, but she would always like turn around and like stare at me, and then she would act like she wasn't. And I kept like catching her, and she kept like denying it.
Yeah.
And then I saw that happening, but I never like approached her just because I've been kind of screwed over by lots of girls, so I wasn't ready to start anything up. So I was like, oh well, this girl likes me, but whatever. But apparently she told somebody else in the class, and then that girl came over and gave me her phone number, and then I called her as soon as I got home.
That's good, man. And so, how did you know that she was like that one, like what that separated her from the rest? Like, what made her a woman versus the girls that you had been involved?
Well, I didn't know that, at like right away. I was attracted to her, and we had a couple projects in that class, so I kind of got to know like what she liked and what she was into. Like we were doing this thing and she was talking about how she played guitar, and music is a very important part of my life, and I figured if she plays guitar she's into good music, because there's music that I don't like.
Yeah.
But I figured, if she plays guitar, then she's got to know a lot about music, and that's really important to me. Okay. So that was another part of it. Like, I knew a few things about her before I made that phone call.
I got you. So like what I would say, what led you to be like, okay, I'm gonna marry this girl versus everybody else?
I have a problem with losing my keys. Like, I put them down and I never ever know where I put them, and I think we were either leaving her mom's house or leaving my parents' house, and I was like pissed off because I couldn't find my keys. And I was looking for them for like 10 minutes, and then she finds them, and I'm like, I was like, I love you, and I said it just because, like, thank you for finding my keys. But I think when I said it, I realized that it was more than just an expression. Yeah. So that was when I realized it.
Oh, okay, cool, man. Good. Well, definitely, I'm happy for you guys, man. So, I think we kind of somewhat answered this with the mantra thing, but I'll say, like, where do you find your inspiration?
That's a tough question. I don't know. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of NPR, and I pick up on stories. When we go out in public, I like observe other people. So I do a lot of like people watching. And then I kind of, write down what I see, and then I put like a little twist on it. But then, like I said previously, if there's a song that comes out, I listen to the lyrics, and there might be something in that song, and then I mix it with something that I've seen, and it kind of starts to form this idea. So when I first wrote the platform, it was completely different than the final product. But the one thing that stayed the same was I was thinking about that urban legend about alligators in the sewers of New York City. And then I started doing research and like how it started, and apparently parents would buy baby alligators for their children, and then when they get to be, too big to handle, basically, they'd flush them down the toilet. So that put the thought in my head, like, I wonder if there's, like, people that feel that way, like these troubled teenagers who are, too much for their parents to handle, and that their parents basically flush them down the toilet. So it's stuff like that. Like, I'll hear about something, and then I'll kind of twist it around and make it, like, a reality.
That's an interesting concept to have, man. Of course, you mentioned before that you're an avid coffee drinker, so I'm at the ask you, man, like, what is your favorite cup of coffee? What's your favorite cup of coffee?
My favorite cup of coffee is basically any flavor, but it has to have two big tablespoons of creamer and 2 big tablespoons of sugar. I don't know why I like sweet coffee. I used to just, go to like the gas station and I'd get whatever coffee they had, but I think maybe I'm getting spoiled.
Yeah, so you like a little coffee with your sugar. I got you. I'm roughly the same way. Like whenever I do drink coffee, I'm not a big coffee drinker because I don't really like what it does to your teeth. But same with like tea. But when I do drink coffee, it's like this French vanilla latte that we have on base at our shop. They have a French vanilla latte. I like pretty good. If I ever had to, like, if I couldn't sleep the night before because we work all kind of shifts and I needed to get like that pick me up. The French vanilla latte, I like that. It's very, like you said, a sweet coffee taste to it. So are you, I would say, Team Dunkin' or Team Starbucks when it comes to coffee? And
if you asked me that question 10 years ago, I would say Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
But now I'm on Team Starbucks.
Yeah.
for a while, I was like very anti-Starbucks. I'm like, their coffee's too expensive and it tastes like shit. I still think it's too expensive, but I don't buy it all that often because, I have my own coffee maker. It actually, the one that I have actually makes full pots, and it has the single cup server on the other side.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Dunkin' Donuts has, there's food-wise, I would go to Dunkin' Donuts because they have like breakfast sandwiches and donuts, and Starbucks has like croissants and what are those things called? I forget what they're called. It's like a pie thing, but it's like all wrapped up. But it's like too fancy for me. So,
yeah.
I mean, I would still go to Starbucks because usually if I'm at either of those two places now, it's for frozen coffee. And every time I go to Dunkin' Donuts, they fuck up my order. So that's why I go to Starbucks.
I got you. All right, man. What's the hardest thing you've had to face in your life thus far?
I would say when my wife had her miscarriage. It was very emotional, and just having to deal with that situation with her. And it was really early on in the pregnancy, so it wasn't as I guess severe as some people have probably gone through, but
right.
I could see just watching her that how much pain she was in because she had to do the it's like a Cytotec tablet.
Yeah.
And they insert it vaginally, and it basically just makes the baby come out, or the fetus, and it was so small that they didn't have to operate or anything. But when it came out, there were it was like mucus kind of, and it just watching that and then flushing the toilet, it's just like an emotional this could have been an actual life, but the doctor was like, it's not going to be a good pregnancy.
It takes a toll on you emotionally, mentally, physically for the woman, and yeah.
I think maybe if people talked about it more, it wouldn't be such a big deal. I think people are ashamed to talk about it because then it's like they're condoning abortion.
Yeah.
And that's such a sensitive topic that, people never, that's why people don't even say that they're pregnant until, the second trimester, because they don't want to, have to go through that and then tell people I had a miscarriage, because then people are oh, you just killed, a baby.
Yeah.
So
well,
I think more people should talk about it.
Well,
it wouldn't be so emotional because it's not that rare of a thing. We thought maybe we did something wrong, and then you do that on top of what's already going on. It makes it more emotional.
Yeah, well, I mean, in most topics that would create the most conversation are usually hard to hard to discuss, such as race and politics. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people tend to avoid that. My public speaking professor in college at Campbell University in North Carolina, he had said to us people the only things that's really worth having conversations for is race, politics, and I think religion, and everything else is bullshit. And it makes, we wouldn't, things would move a lot further if we were open to have these conversations, but no one wants to have that conversation. We'd rather discuss, we'd rather talk about sports, which ultimately means it's just bragging rights. And you get a shiny trophy, and some get paid a hell of a lot of money, or overpaid, as you said, for Bryce Harper. And then same TV shows like our Game of Thrones fans, The Walking Dead, all of that doesn't really mean anything. It's just something to really talk about. It doesn't shape our society and whatnot. Puts us into groups, but it doesn't really shape our society as a whole. Is not going to do anything. No one's going to benefit from that, but race, religion, and politics, they change everything,
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely.
Yeah, I just find that very, very funny, or I would say ironic rather. Which comes easier for you, bro? Writing poems or novels?
I would say writing poems is easier, just because they don't take as long. But when it comes to publishing, it's easier to, in my opinion, it's easier to get a novel published because the criteria isn't as strict. Whereas if it's a poem, you know, you have like, let's say you write like 10 lines or whatever. Those 10 lines have to be perfect. They're not going to edit your poem. They're not going to give it to an editor and it's like, well, we should change this and rewrite this. They're just going to look at whatever you give them as if that's going to be published. You know, if you write a novel, it's going to go through a bunch of rewrites and editors, and they're going to like polish it up. So that's the difference. You know, it's not going to take as long to write the poem, and I think the people who judge poetry, they're kind of a tough crowd. I've noticed that people who read poetry don't like poems that rhyme, and most of the poems I write are rhyming poems, although the one that I got published did not rhyme. But I think if it doesn't rhyme, there has to be something else to it. I wrote a poem about flypaper, but I made it in 2 different columns. So it looked like it was 2 separate poems. Like you could cut it down the middle and it would work as 2 separate poems, or if you move them together, you know, then it's one longer poem. So I think if you write a poem that doesn't rhyme, that's not really fun to read, there should be something like fun about it, either the way it looks or some type of like the design of it, or, you know, something like that to give it a little bit extra.
I got you. All right, man. What's your 5-year plan for your career as an author?
I have, I think, 3 years left on my contract for the platform. So after that expires, I'm hoping to have my current manuscript done, and then I'm going to be shopping for an agent. And people tell me that you don't really need an agent because, you know, you just end up losing more money. But I mean, I think it would be easier for me if I had somebody else, you know, shopping for publishers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking for an agent after I get the manuscript finished, and then if they accept that, I would also offer them the platform. But I would end up writing more, like adding on to it, because it's only 37,000 words, so that's why it's not available in like a physical copy, because if they printed it, you know, the book would be really, really thin, and I think people who read have a certain expectation on how thick the book should be. So I would go back, I'd add another, you know, 3,000 to 5,000 words. I would add an introduction about, you know, basically what we've been talking about, like what inspired me to write it and stuff. And I will also end up changing using a pen name, because after I got my book published, I learned that there's another Alex Berstein, and I think people are confusing me or thinking that I wrote these other books.
I think her name is Bernstein from Family Guy.
Family Guy,
Yeah.
No, that's someone else.
Alex Bernstein, and then I did, as I was like Googling stuff for you know, this upcoming interview, I did come across an Alex Bernstein. I was like, I don't know that's him.
No.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make it's called Authors Central on Amazon, and I typed my name in, and this other guy comes up with all of his books, and they're like, is this you? And I'm like, no. And I think just to make things easier, I'm going to end up using a pen name. It'll be similar to my regular name. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it yet. I might have to add like a middle initial, even though I don't have a middle name. But that's my plan, basically. Find an agent, get my book published, rewrite the old one, and I'd probably change the title, because when I was thinking of the title and trying to find a cover, I couldn't find a cover that fit with the title that I had, so I had to end up changing the title so that when they look at the cover, they don't get confused.
Right.
So I would go back and make it exactly how I wanted it.
So who would you say is your biggest supporter?
My wife was my biggest supporter before I got the book published, but she doesn't read. So like after I got it published, she's like, well, congratulations. And now she's kind of like, what are you going to do now? But there's one of my friends out in Arizona. She's watched all these interviews, and she said she's read the book. I don't know if she has, or she started. I'm not sure if she's finished it, but probably her. So, and I have other friends they've read it, they've given me feedback. But I don't want people to think like my wife doesn't support me, because she does. But she's also my wife, so she needs me to do stuff around the house. So a lot of times she's like, well, you can do your writing, but do it later.
Yeah. I got you, man.
Yeah.
So if you were a writer, what would you be?
I would be an anthropologist. I actually, when I was at Penn State, when I was at Penn State, I was in the psychology program, but I was going to minor in anthropology. And then I had a discussion with my brother, and he was like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I'm like, "Well, I could get a job in a museum," and that's about it. So then I decided not to do that. But just the whole idea, like studying humans and their behaviors and where we've come from and where we're going is interesting to me.
So what's the best part about fatherhood for you?
I think when I come home from work and my daughter's there and she just runs up to me and gives me a hug and she says, "Daddy!"
Yeah, that's
I'd say probably 10 years from now, that's going to change.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Enjoy those moments while they last. I remember a time where I would come up to Virginia from Florida to visit my kid, and I would see her, and it's that joy that you get, man. There's nothing greater than that feeling. And then one day they grow up, and they're teenagers, and it's like, what you doing here, man? But it's just, I guess that phase that you go through, and you got to be able to stick with it and just show them that you're there. And that's all. That's really all we can do, is to just continuously show them that unconditional love that we have for them. So what's one point of advice you can offer to make, I would say, a marriage work? Like, or at least what's worked for you so far?
I think you have to figure out if you want to have kids or not, because if you're planning to have kids, then you want to make sure you get like all your traveling done. You want to get everything done before that happens, because once you have kids, man, well, I'm not talking to you. I mean, but you don't really get to do any of that for at least a couple of years. Like, we keep talking about we want to go to Disney, but our daughter isn't going to remember it now.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, well, why don't we go when she's like 3 or 4? But now we have another baby coming, so now we have to wait another 4 years. So it's like, if you want to take a trip and do it now, and then after the kids come, it's basically, you want to make sure like one of you isn't doing all the work. You need to work as a team. Like, my wife and I, we take turns making dinner. Like, if she's home, then she'll cook dinner if I'm at work, and then like if she works and I'm home, then I'll make dinner. Right. You take turns if the babies are sick or whatever and they wake up in the middle of the night. You get one night, your spouse gets the other night. You just gotta work as a team.
Right. So let me ask you this, man. Is your wife cooking, is that a requirement for you as a man? I mean, there's some guys out there that just like, she has to cook or something like that. I personally, I don't care. As long as we're eating, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I don't think it's a requirement. I mean, I don't think we'd be able to go out and eat every night. So if I, can't cook and she refuses to cook, then that might be an issue. But
I got you.
No, it's not like a requirement.
Right.
But,
right. Yeah, but there's some guys are very, I would say, very machismo, and are like try to be that way, where they feel like, oh, well, yeah, if she doesn't cook, then what good is she? Type thing, I look at that because I grew up in a house where my dad did most of the cooking, so my view on that is like totally different than this particular point perspective. So it's just interesting what you thought about that. What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure, this is the one question that I was having problems with. I'm going to say that I listen to ICP, and I don't like to admit it, because I used to have the t-shirt with like the Hatchet Man on it, and then I would get approached approached by like hardcore ICP fans, and I don't know if you've ever met one of them, but they're kind of strange.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I like after that happened, I like threw out all my ICP stuff because I like their music, but I don't want to like go to their concerts and get Faygo sprayed all over me and be surrounded by the juggalos. I just I want to listen to their music in my house and not be bothered. So
Gotcha,
I would say that's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I'll give you my guilty pleasure, especially with music. I would say probably the likes of well, especially in middle school, because it was very big back then. But like pop music, boy bands, and like the Spears, the Aguileras, the Spice Girls, and all that shit. That was like middle school time frame for me, and it's like really big on that, especially in the choreography and all that, and noticing similar moves they would have. So that would be like my thing. And coming from Virginia, and I would say, and being black, like in our school, like if you listen to it was it was almost like because you're black you had to listen to R&B and rap, you know what I'm saying? But me, I was open to again like rock, like this sound, I would say Soundgarden, and it's all around music. I mean, I listen to whatever the fuck I want to listen to these days, but like back then it was like if you
I listen to everything except for like country, just because I don't care for most of the things that they sing about, and their voices are annoying.
Man, I will give the same suggestion I gave to Dawn when I interviewed her. Shout out to Dawn Hosmer for allowing me to interview her. But I listen to slow country that would love really about stories of love and heartbreak and shit. So I would suggest for you check it out on your own time, man. But Better Man by Little Big Town is probably my favorite country record right now, and Carrie Underwood or Randy Travis's I Told You So. They have a version with both of them together, but both of them separately did I Told You So. But that shit right there, you feel that shit. The lyrics in that one. So I got random questions that I had some folks help me out with, so I'll run them down to you. But what temperature do you keep your thermostat on?
If it's during the winter, I keep it at 72. If it's during the summer, I keep it at 68.
All right. What's worse, a loud chewer or a snorer?
I would say a snorer, because if you're out in public, it doesn't matter if they're chewing loudly, but if you're trying to sleep and someone's snoring loudly, then that could be annoying.
Right. Okay. What's your favorite board game?
Ticket to Ride.
Cool. Since most people drink their coffee while reading, do you drink yours while writing?
Sometimes I drink while writing. I don't really read in the morning when I have my coffee anymore like I used to. I usually read on my lunch break at work and before I'm going to bed. So if I have to choose from one of those, it's when I'm writing. But I do all my writing at night because I wait till everybody falls asleep, and depending on how tired I am, I may not have a cup of coffee.
Okay, I got you. Your favorite place to get a good cup of coffee, if it's outside of if it's a local joint or something like that there in Pennsylvania. So if it's not like Dunkin' or Starbucks, but where would you?
Aside from my own kitchen, there is a place probably about 20 minutes from my house. It was actually the basis for the coffee shop that is in the opening chapter of my book.
Yeah.
It's called MJ's, but there's a movie theater next door. It's like an independent theater. There's usually like one or two movies, and then there's the coffee shop, and they have like sandwiches, and there's local artists can come and they put their artwork on the wall, and people can buy them and stuff.
Okay. All right. And let's see the last question for you. What's one long-term goal you have for your life as a whole?
A long-term goal, probably. I don't want to be like a boring, say a boring answer and be like, oh, I want to get another book published.
Hey, be you, man. That's all you can be, right?
God, I don't know, man. I would like to get to the point where I don't have to have a regular job. If I could just stay home and do my writing and then, you know, also like take care of the kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if I could make like, not saying like I just want money, but if I could be, you know, to the point where I don't have to go to work and I can just stay home and focus on, you know, my family, that would be the one thing that I'd want.
Yeah, do what you love for a living, and you never work a day in your life again.
Mm-hmm.
That's roughly how that goes. All right, man. So that's roughly all I got for you. You have, I would say for you, you got, maybe I'll give you 3 questions that you might be able to have for me that in about anything, and I'll run it down to you the best as possible, and then we'll close out.
Wait, so you want me to ask you three questions?
Yeah, whatever you want, man. It doesn't matter what it is, dude.
Okay. Where were you born?
Jacksonville Naval Hospital, September 20th, 1985 at 11:16 a.m.
Okay, so you've lived in Florida your whole life?
No, I'm a Navy brat, man. So like I think the nearest hospital, because my dad was stationed in Kings Bay, Georgia at the time. Both my mom and my dad, both Navy. And so the nearest hospital was, I think, in Jacksonville. So that was born there, and then I'm pretty sure once I was taken out of the hospital, we was shot back up to Kings Bay, Georgia. We were there for I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 years after my birth, and then we moved to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And we were there from 89 till about January of 92. Yeah, January of 92. From there, we went to Lexington Park, Maryland, and that's where I got to play coach pitch and t-ball there. And I didn't get to go to that damn Hershey Park that we talked about because my dad got orders. Yeah, he got orders in I think like May of 95. So I would have been going to the 5th grade that following September. Wasn't able to do that. So we moved to Suffolk, Virginia, because my dad got stationed in Norfolk, and I stayed there until I left for the Air Force in January of 2004, and at that point, yes, Florida. It's been Florida ever since. So I found my way back home where I was born, rather.
What is your favorite movie?
Shit, we're gonna have to go by genre, probably, and I can run down whatever genre you name. I'll tell you like the favorite in that.
Okay, what's your favorite like action movie?
Action movie would probably be 13 Hours.
Okay. One more question. Do you prefer camping or going to the beach?
I would say going to the beach. One, because of the women and the attractions that are walking around in South Beach. I mean, a woman's anatomy is one of the most beautiful things I would say God and the universe has ever created. For those who believe in God and those who don't, it's like. Yeah, that and then just really like going to, I would say, a particular South Beach, like the landscaping, the skylines and stuff, how beautiful the water is. I don't really care too much sometimes for like the I would say some of the tourists that don't know how to act and shit, and then like the cops have to come out. Like I'm sure if you watch the news like during spring break, they have like tons of stories. Like I seen one story, man, on the news where a woman is decked. She's decked, knocked the fuck out on and drunk college kids, man. They're just out there and they just hit her in the fucking face and she's just knocked out cold, man. So I don't really care too much for that thing. It kind of messes up like a whole ambiance. But for me to get a day off from work, if I ever do, with this current schedule we're on, but get out to the beach, bring my Bluetooth like Cube speaker, play like the more than likely music that I grew up on, and then just sit in like my beach chair with like a couple cold ones disguised because you're not allowed to have cans on the beach. But that's like the beauty for me. And I've yet to go, I would say, camping, you know what I'm saying, which is something that I'm not opposed to, but I just haven't had the chance or been around folks that actually do that. But that's something I would definitely like to do. So, but to say the preference, so for right now, that answer is going to the beach. Once I go camping, yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure camping will probably be a lot more peaceful, being out there with nature, as long as no bears out there trying to fuck me up.
definitely.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for you, bro. You got any, I would say, anything that you might want to say to your fans? Like, well, yeah, matter of fact, where can your fans find you? You got social media or?
The only social media I have is Facebook. I've been thinking about getting on Twitter, but as I said earlier, I'm planning to go by a different name, and I don't want to have a Twitter account and then have to change it. I'm not sure if you can change your name once it's activated.
I think you can. Yeah, you can. You can change it. You can change that.
Okay, well then I might be on Twitter soon, but right now I'm just on Facebook.
I would suggest that you, being an author, I would say the best platforms for you to do is probably Instagram, Twitter, and even Tumblr. Tumblr is a good thing to do, and even and even Pinterest as well. Pinterest is a good thing, especially for authors. And people love to read, especially for your poetry, and once you get it copywritten and all that shit, because people like to again steal ideas. I mean, there's nothing really original, but they can. It's very easy to look up poetry on Pinterest, and then somebody pins it off as their own or something like that. But once you get the rights to all of that, you should be good to go, man. And yeah, I think that's roughly all I got for you, man. I really do appreciate you, giving me the opportunity to interview you, getting to tap inside your mind, and learning about you growing up in Scottsdale, Arizona, the same high school as Davis Spade, who I don't find to be funny. I really don't find Davis Spade.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
I went to school with a celebrity.
Yeah.
Or not with him, but to the same school.
Right. And yeah, I think that's roughly all I got for you, man. You got anything you got for me?
No, man. I think we're good. I think I gotta go downstairs here in a few minutes and help my wife out because I hear the kids screaming, the dogs barking. She's probably screaming for me to get off the phone. So.
Yeah, true family man. All right, well let me close this thing out. So here we are again with Alex Berstein. Again, his novel The Platform is on Amazon. Any other platforms where they can find that novel for you, bro?
It's not. I was trying to get it on all the different devices like the Barnes and Noble Nook thing and on Apple Books. But the publisher said since it's only available digitally, it would be more beneficial to keep it exclusive to Kindle because then you can do the Kindle, what's it called? I think it's Kindle Unlimited or Kindle Direct Publishing or something. I forget what it is, but if you make it exclusive to them, then you earn more money doing it that way.
All right, man. Well, from Romey-Mak and author Alex Berstein, this is the Interview with Rome, and we're out. Peace.